Hello and welcome to a quick little tag moment because Fran from Fran Nook herself did me the honors of tagging me in a video, which is the postscript book tag. I'm gonna do a modified version of it just because some of my answers to all the questions were gonna get a little bit repetitive, okay? So I thought we'd do a little quick reading reflection moment on the past year, okay? Before my big, massive, girthy final wrap up of the year comes out. Firstly, a book you read this year that was outside of your comfort zone. Well, I would say as a genre, romance, because I read it for the first time this year, felt very outside of my comfort zone. The first one I read was Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and wow, is that one to start with? Okay, hello. But then it became like a huge part of my reading. Also, I would say Braiding Sweetgrass, which is one I kind of avoided reading or just kind of discounted for a long time because I assumed it was going to be like very sciencey, and it absolutely isn't, okay? My vague memories of high school biology like got me through so that I knew for the most part what was going on. Favorite reread of the year. Okay, so I usually don't reread books, and like that's a strict policy I've followed since childhood because especially when I was younger, I used to have such a good memory that I like remembered everything so fully that I was like, why would I want to relive this? I already know what happened. Like, why would I do this again? In December, my brain tapped out. I was absolutely in no way capable of like absorbing new information, and I had this weird craving of wanting to reread Take a Hint, Danny Brown. So I reread that one as well as Eve Brown, and then I also reread the 3 books that are out in the Nevermore series, which was truly delightful because Gemma Whelan is a master of her craft, okay? It literally feels like a full cast audiobook experience, all right? And it's also just this like delightful, magical middle grade situation. Highly recommend. Favorite single short story or novella that you read? I don't know if Beowulf counts. Okay, I had a journey with Beowulf this year, which was unexpected. We talked about it in other videos. Also, Daphnis and Chloe by Longest was also out of my comfort zone too, because it was the first like ancient classical literature I'd read other than like nonfiction stuff. And I really enjoyed it. I hugely recommend reading that book in the spring outside if you can. It was a lovely experience. The only true like novella I read this year though was The Testament of Mary by Colm Tobin, which I thought was really interesting. Enjoyed Mary as being curmudgeon-y and also being like, fuck these disciples. Mass Appeal, a book you liked and would recommend to a wide variety of readers. Okay, I have 2 for this because I think they are similar in theme. One is Moon of the Crusted Snow and the other is The Marrow Thieves. Both of these are similar in terms of they're both from Indigenous authors, and they're also specifically talking about climate change, dystopian, and they're both just incredibly crafted books. And I think that if you enjoy that type of reading, I would think that you would enjoy these because they are done so well. If you're someone who doesn't usually like reading that stuff, they're like short and good enough that if you wanted to dip your toe in, I think this would be a good way to do it, all right? Specialized Appeal, a book you like but would be hesitant to recommend to just anyone. I again have a few answers for this. One is It Was Never Gonna Be Okay by Jay Simpson, which is one of the few poetry books I read this year and definitely my favorite. The only reason I'd be hesitant to recommend it in a mass generalized way is because it is poetry, okay? So if you don't like reading poetry, you're obviously not gonna really enjoy it. Also, Jay is specifically writing as an OG Cree Saulteaux writer and also talking about settler colonialism in Canada, residential schools and the legacy of that, as well as being an Indigenous child in foster care, all that kind of stuff, and also being trans. It definitely comes with like needing a previous knowledge of those issues, which should be done. I'm in no way discouraging information about those issues being sought out. However, if you just didn't know that and were unfamiliar with settler colonialism in Canada, I could see how like it might not really make sense. Another book I really enjoyed was Before My Time by Amy McKay, which is a memoir from one of my favorite authors, specifically about how she comes from the oldest studied cancer family in the world. The only reason I would say this is like a specialized recommendation is just because like I know I was hesitant to read it. One, because like I struggle with memoirs now in terms of like actually being interested enough in other people's lives to finish them. That sounds bad. I used to really like memoir and now I don't. I don't know how else to describe it. Also because I was like, is this book gonna bum me the fuck out? Like, is this gonna be a really upsetting read? And like, it's not. There's definitely like heart-wrenching moments filled with emotions, but not enough to like ruin your day. Maybe if it was something that more closely affected you, absolutely could. But it's also told in a narrative structure that I absolutely loved, where basically it follows 3 different timelines, one being her ancestors in terms of them like working with different scientists in terms of charting her family history and keeping track and treating her family when they have cancer, starting in like the 1860s, I believe, her growing up, and then her kind of essentially in the time of writing the book when her oldest son has turned the minimum age to be tested for Lynch syndrome. So I really loved that, also because there's so much like layers of like contextualization in terms of like weaving in the history of sexuality, talking about eugenics and reproductive health and rights and the history of how all that developed, which is what all of her writing does so well. So if that sounds interesting to you, would definitely recommend, but not sure if it would be for everybody. If you're at all interested in this tag, please do it and let me know if you do. I will leave the original video down below as well as Fran's video that has all the actual questions, obviously, and you should definitely check out her videos if you haven't already. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye!